In this video, we're going to look at the SuiteCloud command line tool for Node.js that was put out by Oracle to basically manage NetSuite JavaScript projects. So I'm in VS Code and I've got a terminal open because that's the command line interface here in VS Code. And if I just close off this, we can get a better view of just the commands. I'm going to zoom in there, but everything starts with the command SuiteCloud, and so I'll just do help on SuiteCloud to get us started here. And you can see here that if I zoom back, it's a little bit easier. We've got a couple commands that we can use. Account setup is where I'll connect actually using the browser. I'll connect directly to one of my NetSuite environments, and so then that creates a link here that you can deploy directly from here to a NetSuite environment. Then there's a couple other commands here that we'll look at, like project create, which is an interactive command that will run right now actually to start up. So I'm in an empty folder in here in VS Code, and I'm just going to run my initial SuiteCloud project create, and then it's -I for interactive mode. And then you'll see here that it starts to give me some options. Do I want just an account customization project, which is most of the time, or do I want an actual suite app, which is a bundle project? We're going to just do an account customization for now. Enter the project name. I'm just going to call this one training. And then do you want to include unit testing? Just for now, I'll say no, but it's a good idea to include it. It just installs the packages for just unit testing at the moment. And then you'll see the training project was created, and now I need to run, it says account setup to link your project with your NetSuite account. So I'm going to do that as well. SuiteCloud account setup, and I need to go into my training folder to do that. Sorry. So it created a folder of my project called training, and then I need to run my commands inside of that folder. So that was my mistake. So now I can run account setup, and you'll see here it's loading the configured authentication IDs. So the authentication ID is basically the name you give to your NetSuite environment. So you'll see I have a couple here. I have Steltix RP and Steltix SP that I've logged into. In this case, I'm going to create a new one here, but I could go down and select one of these from before. But in this case, I want to select a new one. And there's two different options. One, you can go into NetSuite and create all the tokens you need and paste them in here, or this browser-based one is what I'm going to use. It's a little bit simpler to do. So you go there. I need to give a name to this. They call it an auth ID. So I'm going to call this one training. And now it's going to say continue the authentication process in the prompted browser. So you see that the browser loads. It's going to ask me to log into my NetSuite environment. And this is the same way you would log in anytime to NetSuite. Okay, and then once I'm in here, you'll see a list of my configured environments. These are the environments that I would like to connect to, and I'm just going to connect this to my release preview account. And you'll see it's going to give me a pop-up that integration would you like to accept or deny? And of course, since we're setting it up, we would like to allow this. And now it says the authentication process will continue. Close this window and go to your application to check the progress. So I can close this window and go back to and you'll see here, it's already, the account has been authenticated for the following company. And then it's the role that I had here as well. We use the ID training as a default, so anytime, and then I can also change those. So let's take a step back for a moment and look at some of the files that were created in this project, so you can get a sense of what a typical SuiteCloud project looks like. So it's a typical JavaScript project, meaning that it uses npm and Node, and then also on the left-hand side here, you'll see it gives its own JSON file that's something for the tool. It's not really related to the code. And then also you have a couple configurations you can change, but the defaults basically are inside your source directory is your code for NetSuite. And you'll see you have a couple things like the account configuration if you wanted to change it. You have a mirror of the file cabinet, which is the most important part for us because the code that we will write will go into the file cabinet. And then we have a Suite Scripts folder in there. We have a couple other folders for templates if we wish to create them, and objects. So there's all of these are set up. We can actually run ways of syncing these projects back and forth from NetSuite. So you'll see here there's a couple options to sync these projects, but since this is something we've never done in NetSuite before, there's no files that I need to sync. I'm going to actually just create a file underneath the Suite Scripts. In fact, I'm going to create a folder underneath there, which we like to do, called Steltix Custom. And I'm going to create my files underneath that. I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to call this test.js. And on this, I'm going to make it the most basic JS file. I'm just going to give it a comment and give it one variable. Almost put myself with an error there because you can't do 3 zeros. It won't recognize that as a keyword. Okay, so then I've got that saved. You'll see here that this is now, nothing that I'm doing here is associated with the Git at the moment. This is just directly from the VS Code terminal into NetSuite. There's no Git integration. So that's where we would manage that in the same tool. On the left-hand side, once I create some Git repos, and I'll show you how to do that in another video, we could push the code that is created. So right now, I'm going to actually come down here and run SuiteCloud project deploy. And you'll see here, it gives me the helpful notification that it's deploying. And at this point, I haven't pulled any files, so this is just pushing my file up to NetSuite. And you'll see here, it gives me a little audit trail of that process. So typically, a workflow might be you pull, like I did in the previous video, you pull an existing project and you make your changes, and then you deploy it using these commands here, and then look for successes that will report back errors. But I can also go into the file cabinet of my NetSuite instance and look for that file just to make sure. It's important to note that this doesn't handle the deployments and stuff like that. You still have to go create script records and deployment records and things like that inside of NetSuite to actually utilize these scripts. But at least this automates that process of getting scripting into and out of NetSuite. Let me just see one more SuiteCloud help. One more. So I can do file import. So let me try that. SuiteCloud file import. Okay, so you have to get a lot of these commands have to go interactive. So it's loading the file cabinet folders right now. This is basically if I need some files that are already in the system into my project here, and you can see here I already can sort of browse through and say, yes, I want some stuff from Steltix Custom, and then it'll show me the files that are available inside of Steltix Custom. Let's say I would like, well, there's the test script that I just deployed. Let's say I would like this expenses types. Choose at least one option. Oh, I didn't actually choose. And now I can hit enter. I choose by using a space. And do I want to exclude all the file attributes? Yes. And this is important. All the files in the project will be overwritten with the files from the account. Do you wish to continue? At this point, yes. And you'll see that as it's fetching, and this is on the left-hand side, you'll see now that I have the types folder created and that file that was just fetched from that release preview NetSuite instance of Steltix. So there is the basic SuiteCloud commands to get your project started, to get your project synced to a NetSuite instance, and to make changes and push code back up to NetSuite.